China invests $1.5 billion in Panama, a strategic move to strengthen economic ties. Overview. On February 3, 2025, it was reported that China has made a substantial investment of $1.5 billion in Panama, a move that underscores the strengthening of economic ties between the two nations. This investment is part of China's broader strategy to increase its influence in Latin America, particularly following Panama's diplomatic shift in 2017 when it recognized Beijing over Taiwan. This shift has paved the way for Panama to become the first Latin American country to join China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), an ambitious infrastructure development plan aimed at enhancing China's global influence. Historical context. China's interest in Panama intensified after the Central American nation severed diplomatic ties with Taiwan and recognized the People's Republic of China in 2017. This decision was a significant milestone in Panama's foreign relations. Given that it was one of the few nations that had maintained diplomatic relations with Taiwan. The same year, Panama signed a Memorandum of Understanding to join the BRI, marking a new chapter in Sino-Panamanian relations. China's plans for Panama included various ambitious infrastructure projects such as a 250-mile high-speed rail line, a new subway system in Panama City, and the construction of a modern container port. One of the more notable successes was securing a $1.4 billion contract for a fourth bridge over the Panama Canal, which is essential for enhancing connectivity in the region. However, these ambitions have encountered several hurdles. Under the administration of President Laurentino Cortizo, the proposed railway project was suspended, and in 2021, Panama revoked a contract with the Chinese company Landbridge due to its failure to meet local investment and employment commitments. Recent developments. The political landscape in Panama shifted once again with the election of President José Raúl Mulino. In a significant pivot, Mulino announced intentions to terminate a key development deal with China, particularly in light of increasing pressure from the United States. Following a visit from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Mulino declared that Panama would not renew its Memorandum of Understanding to join the BRI. Instead, he expressed a desire to strengthen ties with the U.S., emphasizing Panama's sovereignty over the strategically vital Panama Canal. This new direction reflects a growing apprehension within Panama regarding potential Chinese dominance, especially concerning control over the Panama Canal, which has been historically significant for U.S. interests. In light of these developments, the U.S. government has responded assertively, with President Donald Trump voicing deep concerns about China's expanding influence in the region. U.S. reaction. The United States has been vocal in its apprehensions about China's growing presence in Panama. President Trump has suggested that the U.S. should regain control over the Panama Canal, highlighting its importance for American trade and military logistics. In a recent statement, Rubio reiterated that the U.S. could not allow the Chinese Communist Party to continue its effective control over the canal. The U.S. Department of State estimates that approximately 72% of vessels that transit through the Panama Canal are bound for U.S. ports. This statistic underscores the canal's critical importance to American interests, as it serves as a major shipping route that significantly reduces travel distance for maritime traffic between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In response to Trump's concerns, House Republicans introduced the Panama Canal Repurchase Act, which aims to give the president authority to negotiate with the Panamanian government for the potential reacquisition of the canal. This move signals a renewed U.S. focus on its influence in the region and the importance of maintaining strategic control over critical maritime routes. Conclusion. China's $1.5 billion investment in Panama represents a significant effort to solidify its economic footprint in Latin America. However, recent political shifts in Panama and increasing U.S. pressure suggest that the future of Sino-Panamanian relations may be fraught with challenges. As Panama reassesses its foreign policy direction, the interplay between Chinese ambitions and U.S. interests in the region will continue to shape the dynamics of this critical relationship. While China's investment initiatives may promise infrastructure development and economic growth, local concerns about sovereignty and external influence are increasingly becoming central to the political discourse in Panama. The evolving landscape of international relations in the region highlights the complex interplay between economic initiatives and geopolitical interests, with both China and the U.S. vying for greater influence over Panama's future. Counterintuitive information identified in the content includes: 1. China's influence versus U.S. control. While China has made significant investments in Panama and proposed ambitious infrastructure projects, there is a strong counter-narrative that emphasizes U.S. influence and control over the Panama Canal, historically considered a U.S. strategic asset. The idea that Panama might pivot away from China to strengthen ties with the U.S. contradicts the narrative of China's growing dominance in the region. 2. Panama's reassessment of foreign policy. The expectation might be that developing countries would lean towards partnerships with emerging powers like China for economic support. However, Panama's recent decision to reconsider its engagement with China in favor of closer ties with the U.S. highlights a counterintuitive shift back to traditional alliances, suggesting concerns about sovereignty and external control over national resources. 3. Chinese investments as a double-edged sword. Although China's investments are intended to enhance its influence, they have also led to local backlash and scrutiny regarding compliance with contractual obligations. The revocation of contracts due to non-compliance by Chinese firms is counterintuitive to the expectation that foreign investment would be uniformly welcomed and beneficial, showcasing the complexities of international economic relations. 4. Political pressure versus economic opportunity. The narrative implies that U.S. pressure would typically drive a country like Panama to reject Chinese investment. However, this pressure seems to have resulted in Panama reassessing its position, which contradicts the assumption that economic opportunity alone would dictate alignment with a growing economic power like China. 5. Public perception of Chinese presence. Despite China's significant investments and infrastructure promises, there is an underlying wariness among Panamanians regarding Chinese influence. This contradicts the expectation that such investments would lead to increased public support and acceptance, revealing a complex interplay of national pride, sovereignty concerns, and skepticism about foreign powers. 6. Potential for U.S. repurchase of the Panama Canal. The introduction of a bill to repurchase the Panama Canal by U.S. lawmakers suggests a retrogressive move, which counterintuitively implies a lack of confidence in current U.S.-Panama relations and a sense of urgency to reassert control over a strategic asset instead of fostering cooperative partnerships. 7. Role of soft power in national strategy. While many assume that economic investment is the primary tool for influence, China's soft power efforts in Panama, such as cultural promotion through Confucius Institutes, have not significantly mitigated local concerns about sovereignty, which is counter to the idea that cultural diplomacy alone can secure favorable relations. These points illustrate the complex dynamics at play in the geopolitical struggle between China and the U.S. for influence in Panama, highlighting the often unpredictable and counterintuitive nature of international relations and economic partnerships. China's $1.5 billion investment in Panama represents more than just a financial transaction. It is a strategic maneuver aimed at expanding China's influence in Latin America and enhancing its geopolitical standing through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI). However, several important aspects of this development are likely to be overlooked by many observers, particularly concerning the broader implications of Panama's shifting diplomatic relations, the historical context of U.S.-Panamanian ties, and the ramifications for regional stability. 1. Historical context of U.S.-Panama relations. Many reports may emphasize the current strategic tussle between China and the United States in Panama, but the historical context of U.S. involvement in Panama is crucial. The Panama Canal, completed in 1914 by the United States, has long been a critical maritime route for global trade. After the canal was handed over to Panama in 1999, the U.S. maintained significant interest in the region, partly due to security concerns and economic interests. Observers might overlook how this historical backdrop shapes current events, particularly how Panama's past reliance on U.S. support influences its decisions today. The U.S. has historically viewed the canal as a vital asset for its military and economic interests, and any perceived encroachment by China is likely to provoke a strong reaction from Washington, as evidenced by recent statements from U.S. officials. 2. Impact of local sentiment and sovereignty concerns. Another significant but often overlooked element is the sentiment among Panamanians regarding foreign investment and influence. The initial enthusiasm for Chinese investment has been tempered by concerns over sovereignty and the implications of ceding too much control to a foreign power. The decision to halt the railway project and revoke the contract from Landbridge indicate a growing wariness towards Chinese projects which many may not fully appreciate. This local sentiment is crucial as it reflects a broader trend in which countries in Latin America are reassessing their relationships with external powers, balancing economic benefits against national sovereignty and local employment considerations. 3. The role of domestic politics in foreign policy shifts. The political landscape in Panama is rapidly evolving, and the recent shift in leadership has significant ramifications for Sino-Panamanian relations. José Raúl Mulino's administration appears to be pivoting toward the U.S. in response to increasing pressure. This change is noteworthy because it illustrates how domestic politics can influence foreign policy in real time. Many analysts may focus solely on external pressures from superpowers but overlook the internal dynamics that drive these decisions. Mulino's administration has the dual challenge of responding to U.S. concerns while also addressing domestic apprehensions about Chinese influence, highlighting the complex interplay of local and international factors in shaping foreign policy. 4. The geopolitical significance of the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is not merely a logistical asset, it is a geopolitical fulcrum. The canal's strategic importance to the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard, as well as for commercial shipping, makes it a focal point of U.S. foreign policy. With an estimated 72% of vessels utilizing the canal linked to U.S. ports, any shift in control or influence over the canal can have serious implications for U.S. national security and trade. The potential for increased Chinese influence over such a crucial asset should not be underestimated, as it could alter the balance of power in the region. Observers may underestimate the extent to which control over the canal could enable China to project military and economic power, reshaping regional dynamics. 5. Broader implications for U.S.-China rivalry. The investment in Panama and the subsequent political shifts also reflect a broader narrative of U.S.-China rivalry in Latin America. While many discussions tend to focus on the bilateral relationship between China and Panama, they often neglect the implications for U.S. policy in the region as a whole. The potential for China to establish a foothold in Panama could serve as a bellwether for its influence throughout Latin America, where countries are increasingly faced with the choice between engaging with China or maintaining traditional ties with the U.S. This rivalry can exacerbate tensions and lead to a reconfiguration of alliances in the region that may have long-term consequences for geopolitical stability. 6. The role of economic development in shaping foreign policy. While the immediate focus of the investment may be on infrastructure and development projects, the underlying economic motivations for both China and Panama are significant. Many may overlook how these economic ties can influence political alignments and foreign policy decisions. For Panama, the promise of economic development through Chinese investment is alluring, but it also comes with risks of overdependence on a single partner. This risk is compounded by the possibility of economic coercion, where China could leverage its investments to influence Panama's foreign policy in ways that may not align with its national interests. In conclusion, China's substantial investment in Panama encapsulates a complex web of historical, political, and economic factors that extend beyond the surface-level analysis of bilateral relations. By recognizing the significance of local sentiments, historical context, and the geopolitical implications of the Panama Canal, observers can gain a clearer understanding of the nuanced dynamics at play. As Panama navigates its foreign relations in this increasingly multipolar world, the choices it makes will resonate far beyond its borders, shaping the future of U.S.-China relations and the stability of the entire region. 1. China's strategic investment in infrastructure projects. China's $1.5 billion investment in Panama aligns with its broader Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), aiming to enhance its geopolitical influence in Latin America. This investment includes ambitious infrastructure projects like a high-speed rail line, a new subway in Panama City, and a fourth bridge over the Panama Canal. However, these initiatives have faced setbacks such as the halting of the railway project and the revocation of a port contract due to non-compliance by a Chinese firm. Analyzing these projects reveals both the potential benefits of Chinese investment in local infrastructure and the challenges posed by political and operational hurdles. 2. Shifting political dynamics. The political landscape in Panama has shifted with the new presidency of José Raúl Mulino, who has indicated a distancing from China and a pivot towards the United States. This marks a significant change following Panama's recognition of China in 2017 and participation in the BRI. The decision to not renew a key memorandum with China reflects growing concerns about sovereignty and potentially excessive Chinese influence, particularly over the strategically vital Panama Canal. A deeper analysis of this political pivot can provide insights into the implications for U.S.-Panama relations and the broader geopolitical dynamics in the region. 3. U.S. response and influence. The U.S. government has reacted assertively to China's growing presence in Panama, with key figures like President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio expressing concerns about Chinese control over the Panama Canal. The proposed Panama Canal Repurchase Act highlights U.S. intentions to regain influence over this critical waterway, emphasizing its significance for U.S. trade and military logistics. Discussing the U.S. strategies to counter China's influence can reveal the complexities of international relations in Central America and the balancing act that Panama must navigate between these two powerful nations. 4. Local concerns and sovereignty issues. The concerns among Panamanians regarding Chinese investments highlight a broader sentiment about sovereignty and external influence. The potential for increased Chinese dominance raises questions about the long-term implications for Panama's political autonomy and economic direction. Exploring local perspectives on these investments as well as the implications of the recent political shifts can provide a nuanced understanding of the interplay between foreign investment, national sovereignty, and public sentiment in Panama. This aspect is crucial for assessing the sustainability of Sino-Panamanian relations moving forward. 1. The United States and Panama Canal Treaty 1977. In the late 20th century, the U.S. faced growing pressure regarding its control of the Panama Canal, which had been a vital strategic asset since its completion in 1914. The Torrijos-Carter treaties signed in 1977 established a timeline for the transfer of control of the canal from the U.S. to Panama, set to be completed by December 31, 1999. This move was driven by rising nationalism in Panama and calls for sovereignty over the canal, which was seen as a symbol of U.S. imperialism in Latin America. The treaties were controversial in the U.S. and sparked intense political debates, reflecting the broader geopolitical tensions of the Cold War era. 2. China's investment in Sri Lanka's Hambantota port 2017. China's approach to strengthening its influence through infrastructure investment can be seen in its involvement in Sri Lanka. In 2017, Sri Lanka leased the Hambantota port to a Chinese company for 99 years after failing to repay loans taken for its construction. This deal raised concerns about China's growing footprint in the Indian Ocean, a region of strategic importance to several countries including India and the U.S. The investment was part of China's broader Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to enhance global trade routes but has faced criticism for leading to debt diplomacy. 3. Russia's annexation of Crimea and international reactions 2014. following Ukraine's Euromaidan protests and subsequent political upheaval. Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, a strategic move to assert its influence in Eastern Europe and the Black Sea region. The annexation was met with widespread condemnation from Western nations, which saw it as a violation of international law and Ukraine's sovereignty. This event heightened tensions between Russia and the West, leading to sanctions against Russia and a re-evaluation of NATO's presence in Eastern Europe, similar to how U.S. responses to China's actions in Panama reflect concerns over sovereignty and influence in a historically strategic area. China's $1.5 billion investment in Panama represents a pivotal moment in the evolving landscape of international relations and economic alliances, particularly in Latin America. As the future unfolds, several key predictions can be made regarding the trajectory of Sino-Panamanian relations and the broader implications for regional dynamics. 1. Increased tensions between China and the U.S. The U.S. has historically viewed Latin America as its sphere of influence, and China's growing presence poses a significant challenge. As Panama pivots towards the U.S., we can expect increased tensions between Washington and Beijing. This friction will likely manifest in diplomatic maneuvers, trade policies, and potential economic sanctions as both nations vie for influence over Panama and the region. 2. Shifts in Panama's foreign policy. Panama's recent decision to terminate its Memorandum of Understanding with China for the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) indicates a strategic shift towards the U.S. This trend may continue, especially as the current administration seeks to assert its sovereignty and reduce dependency on Chinese investments. Future elections in Panama could further influence this dynamic, depending on the political party in power and its stance towards foreign investments. 3. Chinese investment adjustments. While Chinese investments may face setbacks, Beijing is likely to adapt its strategies in response to Panama's shifting political landscape. Expect China to focus on smaller, less controversial projects that align with Panama's immediate needs, such as healthcare or telecommunications, rather than large infrastructure initiatives that could be perceived as intrusive. 4. Greater U.S. engagement in Latin America. The U.S. will likely increase its engagement and investment in Panama and surrounding countries to counterbalance China's influence. This could include enhancing trade agreements, increasing foreign aid, or expanding military cooperation. The U.S. might also leverage its historical ties and diplomatic relationships to strengthen its position in the region. 5. Regional repercussions. Panama's pivot towards the U.S. could inspire neighboring countries to reassess their own foreign policy strategies regarding China. Nations that have engaged with China through the BRI may reconsider their involvement, leading to a realignment of alliances in Latin America. This could create a domino effect, prompting other countries to prioritize U.S. relations over Chinese investments. 6. Economic implications for Panama. With a renewed focus on U.S. investments, Panama could see both positive and negative economic impacts. On one hand, aligning with the U.S. could lead to increased trade and investment flows, potentially boosting the Panamanian economy. On the other hand, ongoing tensions with China may deter foreign investment and create economic uncertainties, especially if existing contracts or projects are put on hold. 7. Infrastructure development challenges. China's ambitious infrastructure projects in Panama, including the proposed high-speed rail and container port, may face further delays or cancellations. The shift in political priorities could lead to a lack of funding or support for major initiatives. However, if U.S. investments can fill the gap, Panama might still see progress in its infrastructure development, albeit through different channels. 8. Geopolitical realignments. As the U.S. and China continue to compete for influence in Latin America, other global players, such as Russia and the European Union, may seek to assert their interests in the region. This could lead to a more multipolar world where Latin American nations have greater leverage in negotiations and partnerships, as they can choose between multiple powerful allies. 9. Increased nationalism and sovereignty concerns. Panama's shifting stance reflects a broader trend of nationalism and concerns over sovereignty in the face of foreign influence. Moving forward, we may see increased domestic scrutiny of foreign investments, leading to stricter regulations and conditions for foreign companies operating in Panama. 10. Long-term strategic implications. In the long run, the balance of power in Panama between U.S. and Chinese influences will significantly impact regional stability and economic development. If Panama successfully navigates its relationships and leverages its strategic position, it could emerge as a key player in the broader geopolitical landscape of Latin America. Conclusion. The future of Sino-Panamanian relations is poised for a period of uncertainty characterized by fluctuating investments, shifting alliances, and geopolitical tensions. As Panama recalibrates its foreign policy in response to internal and external pressures, the ramifications will extend beyond its borders, influencing the dynamics of Latin America and the global stage. The interplay of these factors will shape not only Panama's future but also the broader narrative of U.S.-China relations in the region.